Well, hello Floss Tube. Welcome to Grandma's World. I'm Debbie, and I'm just looking at myself to see this thing right here on my nose. My sister said, "Wow, who hit you?" I said, "Nobody did." It's what my dermatologist kindly calls a maturity spot. His assistant called it a sunspot. And all the years growing up, what we called them were age spots. And it's sun damage, and it really started popping up this year after I started doing whale watches. And what's funny about it, at least I think it's funny, is that when I do a whale watch, I have a cap I wear that comes down to here, and then I have sunglasses on that go to here, and then I was wearing a mask that went to here. And so what I have is this, you know, my melanin is really going to town here. I've always had freckles, but this is, you know, I'm getting kind of the age thing going. And that spot is right where all of those, the bridge of the sunglasses are above it, the mask is below it, everything else is covered. So I've been treating it with licorice oil, and it seems to be working pretty well at fading it. But in fact, you know, if I sit back, it's not screaming the way it did for a while. But I had to check, I have to get close. Yeah, it's getting a little better. It's getting a little better. I have had a sensational couple of weeks. I hardly know where to start. I will start by saying I'm going to do a Floss Tube filming first. That will include my finishes, yes, finishes, finishes, progress on whips, haul, and plans for the future, at least for the future couple of weeks. And then I'm gonna, I need to cut my hair off, it's getting caught under my arms. Then I'm going to turn it off and start a new video on collecting I've been doing from my new Rae Dunn obsession, which gets me into home goods, TJ Maxx and Marshalls on a regular basis. And while here I'm convinced that this part of Southern California has been labeled, you know, where you send the stuff that doesn't sell to die. Because I see people doing hauls all over the country, and I don't, that stuff hasn't been showing up here. What we're getting are things that I think were from last year maybe, or, you know, it didn't sell in the greater LA area, and so they're sending it over here to us in my county, which is really on the outskirts of Los Angeles. At any rate, that's okay. It's been a lot of fun, and the point of it is I have had some fantastic luck finding stuff in the last couple of weeks. And while I'm out shopping, I'm also finding things for Halloween and the fall, and fall is my favorite season, and I decorate almost as much for Halloween as I do for Christmas. And I have a lot of decor for both. So I have picked up things that are Rae Dunn, things that are not Rae Dunn, and I just thought it would be fun to share all of it. So that'll go in a separate video. And then I had the most amazing whale watch. They just keep getting better and better this year. And I attribute, first of all, I just want to attribute praise, as however I say it, you're supposed to say that, to the captain, Captain Dave at Condor Express. He just will not give up until he shows you something. And a 4.5 hour watch, he knows that Santa Barbara channel, and he knows the boat, and he just doesn't give up. And so I joined the American Cetacean Society, and they hosted a 8-hour whale watch on the Condor Express out of Santa Barbara, and we saw things, even the naturalists on board this was the 4th annual ACS 8-hour whale watch out of Santa Barbara, and even they were saying that they've never seen this. They've never seen as much as they did. I will just give you a hint. If you're into the ocean and into whales, At the end of our trip, we were out several miles out of the channel. We'd gone into the open sea. We could still see the islands in the distance, but we weren't necessarily close to them. We saw killer whales out in the open sea, a pod of, I know the first time I saw them there were 4, and then the second and third times we interacted with them there were 3. So I think one of them, and I'll talk more about this in the video I'm going to edit together for this, but essentially there was also a pod of sea lions, or a school of sea lions. What do you call them? Are they a pride of sea lions? I don't know. I'm going to have to learn that. And they were, I have a feeling that one of those whales kind of veered off and got a snack, and that's why we didn't see it again in a time we could stay there. So I'm going to put that together. We saw long-beak common dolphins, short-beak common dolphins, minke whales, a mola mola, that a sea lion was eating the mola. That was very entertaining. We saw scores of birds, albatross, brown-footed boobies, and sooty, they're called sooty shearwaters in huge flocks. And then they took us around to the back of an island and showed us pinnipeds, fur seals, sea lions, and elephant seals. And then we saw our killer whales and played with them. And I'm not going to tell the story here. I will edit it together, record another introduction of that. It's a whole different thing. Okay, so what I'm looking at today, it's been a very busy 2 weeks in a lot of ways, and I have not done nightly stitching because of it. But I've had a finish, like I said, and I actually have had 2 finishes. One is a FFO, and I'll show you that one first. This was the piece I was working on to kind of commemorate these whale watches I go on in the Santa Barbara Channel here, Pacific Ocean in Southern California. And it is, it's a Mermaid's Life by Tiny Modernist. And this is the way I put it together. And it's been hanging in the room. Kind of hard to hold it up and explain it. And I'm not totally thrilled with it, I'll tell you that. I had to make some changes in my plan. But this piece, the wooden piece with the animals on it, came as one piece. It was held together by jute. And then I had to do a little bit of rearranging of these things because they were sticking too far into the design. I was inspired by Priscilla Blaine to just mount it on fabric and then use the same fabric at the bottom for a separate piece because I made a big mistake down there and I had to cover it up. And these are sand dollar buttons that a student gave me several years ago. And then this little starfish I bought in Santa Barbara as part of a kit of things. I really thought I was inspired by Jamie of Cornhusker State Stitchers. She had finished an ocean-based piece and had put seashells around it. And I was inspired by that. And in the end, it was too busy with all of them. So I just took the one red starfish that matched some of the other sea creatures in here. So I'm really happy with it. It's on the wall in the room that I did it for. And it looks wonderful and just kind of completes that wall. So I'm going to film a tour of that room in the not too distant future. I've been waiting until I finish one more cross stitch piece, and I did. And so this is the nubble. I can't get it in there. Pull it back, I guess. This is the nubble by Donna Bayless of By the Bay Needle Arts. And she is in York, Maine. And the nubble is in York, Maine. And I have seen the nubble. I've gone around it in a boat as part of just a wonderful trip that I took a couple of years, well, 3 years ago now, because we were locked down for a year. I have a very dear friend who lives in northern Massachusetts, very close to the New Hampshire line. and the distance between northern Massachusetts and Maine going across New Hampshire, New Hampshire's pretty skinny there, so it doesn't really take very long. And one of the things that she arranged for us the first time I went up to visit was a drive up to Ogunquit, Maine, and she introduced me to Maine lobster. I will never eat it any other place than on the East Coast, freshly caught. And then I just fell in love with Perkins Cove in Ogunquit, and in fact I've devoted part of my decor, both in my guest room and in my bathroom, to Perkins Cove. And so I have probably a dozen charts by Donna Bayless and by the Bay Needle Arts. I think that she captures the feel of what I was experiencing when I visited. And then we did the trip where we did the Ogunquit, and then we took a tour boat up to York and went around the Nubble, or around and back kind of a thing. And it was just, the whole experience of it was magic for me to be on. First of all, Perkins Cove is interesting and unique. And then to go out and be in the Atlantic Ocean when I'd spent so much time on the Pacific, and then to go and hear the wonderful story of, the Nubble has a very interesting story. It's also called the Nedick Light on the, I think that's its official name, but the piece of land that it's on is called a nubble, and they typically put lighthouses on them. And so this one's just nicknamed the Nubble. So I finished that, and I have the frame already. I will final finish it and get it on the wall. And when this is on the wall is when I'm going to do the tour of that room. I don't know if I'll do it as a floss tube piece. I think I'm going to do it as part of Grandma's projects or something like that. I'll link it here if you want to go see all of it put together up there on the walls. But because I have 3 different pieces of cross stitch that I did for that room. And this is the 3rd one. I don't know. I'll decide later how I'm going to handle that. So those are my finishes. Yay me. And I did get progress. I have to say I really focused my stitching time on that Nubble project. And I tend to do that. I like to have a dozen things going at once. I like color, and I like to visit different projects because I like to visit the color and the excitement of working on something that's different from what I did yesterday. But when I can see the finish, and when I know where it's going on the wall or on a shelf or whatever, then all I want to do is buckle down and finish that piece. And so that's what I did there. It took a few evenings, and I didn't do much of anything else. I did work though I wanted to start this. Every time I finish a whale watch, I want to pull this chart. It's called the Humpbacks. The Humpbacks are my favorite of the whales that we see on our travels. And this is just a gorgeous chart that really does capture the feel of these people, I call them people of the sea, the humpbacks in the water, just the feel of what you're seeing when you see them. And I have it, I have it here. This is what I accomplished. I think what I started to say was every time I come home after a whale watch like that, that's so successful, I want to get this out and work on it. So I said, I'm just going to do that. Normally I go on a whale watch on a Tuesday, and I'm just going to set aside Wednesdays to work on this piece. This will be my Wednesday after a whale watch piece. This is just the underbelly of, I'll show you what this is. Hold on. This is a huge chart. 200 and, what is it? Let me look it up again. It does tell us in here somewhere. 250 stitches wide and 177 high. and I'm using a 16 count Haven by Picture This Plus. It's an Aida, which is pretty much really all I work on. So this is this part of the mother here, from about here up to here is what I got done. And on this last whale watch, we saw everybody's favorite mom. Her name is Chompers, and she had a calf that she was nursing, and we were actually able to watch the nursing behavior. So that was really exciting. I'm going to talk more about this in a minute and their plans, although I kind of just gave it away what I was going to do with that. What did I do with your home? It's over here, the plans. Those were really the only two flossy things I worked on as far as actually stitching. So now I'm going to go to haul, and I didn't get a lot of stitchy related haul. Oh, I'm missing something. So the nubble and the humpbacks were really all that I worked on this week, with most of my focus going on the nubble. And before I moved to haul, I was really intrigued. I'm pretty sure it was Candy Carr on 614 Stitcher, who has a couple of times, I mean, I know she's done it a couple of times, but there's one other person in my FlossTube history that's done this, and that's referred to someone as being multi-craftional. And I'm just so delighted with that word and that concept, because that's, I think, what a lot of us are. I don't know that there are very many of us, maybe I'm wrong, who don't do more than one thing. And I thought it would be fun in these things to just start sharing some of the other crafts I've been involved with over my life and some of the other things I've done, just as a way to share them out, because right now they kind of just live in closets or in boxes or in cabinets, and nobody ever sees them except me, which is okay, because I enjoy it. I enjoyed making them and I enjoy seeing them, but I thought it'd be fun to share them here. So one of the things that I did when I was a kid was, well, first of all, I'm trying to get things. There were always crafts going on around me. My mom would be a brownie leader, and I still remember, we took popsicle sticks and glued them to one of the short coffee cans and stained it and varnished it. One of the dads helped us varnish it. And I loved that thing. I don't know what happened to it, but I still remember it. I still want to duplicate that. You know, not that you can find little short coffee cans anymore, but it was a fun thing to do, and I loved the product when it was done. I think I learned to stitch when I was about 9 and didn't do a lot of it, was kind of busy, but there was always, when I was in high school, we had a school, like a fair, and the performing group that I was with did a face painting booth. That was my idea. And so we painted flowers and stuff. This was Flower Child era, so, you know, that was not unusual. So I've just always been crafty, and it's always been going around. My mom was still incredibly crafty. She finished a gorgeous, she's 88. She's 89 now, but last year when she was 88, knitted an Afghan for my brother. And not just straight knit purl. It was complicated. And then turned around, and when I take you on the tour of my guest room, you'll see the one. She wanted to do something simpler, so I found this pattern, and she bought the kit, bought the knitting yarn for it, and made me an Afghan for my guest room last year when she was 88. So this has always gone on. One of the things she got into was ceramics, cast ceramics. The lady up the street was selling lessons from her garage, and Mom made me the first piece she gave to me. It was a black Persian cat, and it still sits in this side yard back here. Covers up something dangerous out there. And then she got me going to it during this one summer, and I don't even remember what I made while I went there, but together, we started going, when that lady stopped doing the ceramics, we started going to another lady, and we went to her for years. and went to a convention. She turned us on to a ceramics convention in Anaheim. And we went there and were walking around, and there was a woman there, had a triple booth. She was teaching how to make reproduction porcelain dolls. And I fell in love, and I ended up going to her for some lessons, and then I ended up buying greenware locally and having it fired locally, and then I ended up buying my own molds and a kiln, and was looking to go into business with it, and got zero support at home to do that. So I didn't make a business of it, but I sure had fun making dolls. And one of the first dolls that I made was Hilda. She's a reproduction of a Kestner doll. Kestner was my favorite older doll maker. And this is Hilda, and she needs new elastics, so I have to be kind of careful with her. Don't you just love that face? Even now, to me, she just has the prettiest face. I never got a wig for her because in my experience, babies this age just don't have a lot of hair. Because to me, she represents, you know, maybe a 6-month-old. I made her dress and her bonnet and everything. She's kind of stained and dusty because it's been close to 40 years since I made her. Anyway, I love her a lot, and like I said, she sits in a cabinet in my sewing room, craft room. My son called it Mom's Happy Room. And I get to see her every day. I get to visit with her every day that I go stitch. And now I'm going to put her back there because I'm afraid she's going to get broken. So now that I've done that, I've decided that those kinds of things belong at the end of a Floss Tube video. So from now on, I'm going to do them as I sign off. So I think that brings me to haul, and I am very happy sitting here in the middle of all this, but I'm not sure how to address it. So I guess I'll just start with let's start with charts. Don't go away, I need you. Okay, we'll start with charts. And I love visiting with Felicia on Mouse Potato Designs, and she goes through websites that offer freebies and then puts the links to the freebies in her description so that we can follow and visit those websites too. And that was really kind of dangerous. But the one that, see, I don't think there's a cover for this. All I got was the chart, so I can't, oh, here it is, yay! The one that really spoke to me, and I can even imagine where it's gonna go, is this one, The Way to Happiness. Keep your heart free from hate, your mind from worry, live simply, expect little, give much, scatter sunshine, forget self, think of others. And was this the one? Maybe not. There was one chart that I got recently that it was a beautiful quote, and it was a Norman Vincent Peale quote, but the one that I got as a freebie didn't have didn't attribute it to anybody. It just was there, and so I'm not remembering which pattern it was, what chart it was. But at any rate, this one is the one that Felicia shared. And it's going to get done want to say about this. It's okay, so it's a Jardin Privé chart designed by Nathalie Chichon. I can guess. I have a friend in France who probably could tell me how to do this, but she's a little busy right now. But she's the one who cleared me up. There's a chart out, several charts out, and I have them. She turned me on to them by a company whose name is spelled N-I-M-U-E, or is it N-I-M-U-E? The N-I-M-U-E. And I hear people calling it Nimue, Nimue. And so I wrote to her and I said, help me out here. How do you pronounce this? It's French. It's a French company. How do you pronounce this? And she said, it's Nimue. She said with a French, I said, well, okay, got it. Anyway, I always try. I'm good with languages and I'm good with Romance languages, but they're not all the same, and I don't know any of them very well, but I like to try. I always figure someone will correct me. And if they're French, if someone's French wants to correct me on Jardin Privé, go for it. All right, this is a piece of cloth I had already. It's a Village Needle Arts 16 count Aida. I buy a lot of 16 count Aida from them. It is probably printed, I don't know. No, this one looks totally dyed. It's called Misty Morning. And that's what I'm going to do this on. The one I just put away. It's going to go on there. I've been participating in the Common Threaded Stitcher. So far I've managed to contribute every morning, which is a record for me. I usually forget about those things and miss a day here and there, but it's really been fun and interesting. And the reason I decided to do it, aside from the social aspects of it, was to actually learn how to use Instagram better. I don't use it. I don't want to be leashed to my phone. I've really avoided Instagram because of that. But so much happens now in terms of communication via Instagram, at least with the people I want to hang with, that I decided I need to use it better. So it's been a good experience. I've learned how to do a few things. And of course, one of the things that's happened, for better or worse, is that people are posting their progress on a variety of things. And someone posted this. And so I have subscribed to Punch Needle and Primitive Embroidery magazine. I subscribe to the print edition because my mother enjoys it, and she is not, she's just not set up at her house to be going through things on a digital thing. But when you buy the print edition, you get all the digital library. And so I was able to go back. Well, it was actually in the summer edition right now, that's out right now, and pick this up. The first time Priscilla and Chelsea showed this, I think, I just fell in love with it. I'm not real big on the checks, or that you have to stitch in. I'm not going to do that. But this little skep with the beads around it, Priscilla's doing more and more designs where she's adding these little details. And I know that Chelsea, this must be take time, and I appreciate you for doing those, but they just add so much delight to these charts. I'm getting ready to take down my summer display. I am so ready for fall. I want to get it down and packed up so that I can move in some fall stuff now. September 1st is almost here. It's time. By next year, I hope to have a quilt finished, and that's one of the things I'm going to share in this Multicraftional report, are some of the quilt projects that are partially completed that I want to have completely completed by their holiday next year. And the one that I have makes use of sunflowers. So I said I want to have this done by next summer too. Maybe even back it with some of that same fabric. And then with what I already have, my little Boyd's Bears beekeepers and gardeners and all, that will be, it'll be a delightful entry. I really, for summer, I only decorate my entry. I don't do any of the rest of the house, unlike Halloween and Christmas. So I bought the magazine in the last, since I spoke to you in the last post, I think. I don't think I mentioned it then. Another thing that I got from Common Threaded Stitcher, although it's not a cross stitch thing, none of this is cross stitch things. Sorry, I forgot to open them before I did this. There's a story with this, and I hope you'll bear with me because I just want to have it recorded, because if I forget it, I'll be sorry I forgot it. I don't think I'll ever forget this though. So I saw someone finished this. I love regular embroidery. I don't know if is this what they call primitive embroidery? I love to do it. I've done a lot of it. I have a lot of patterns for it. And with my current addiction to whale watches, this had to be mine. I had to do this. So the woman who posted it posted the name of the designer. Her name is Kathy Schmidt. And I went looking for this design. I went through her, she does have an Etsy store. I went through that 2 or 3 times and didn't see it. And then followed, I didn't see it. Here's the way I think it happened. I didn't see it in the Etsy store, so I messaged her through the Etsy store and said, I've fallen in love with one of your designs. It's a whale. It says, take me to the sea. I've gone through your Etsy store 2 or 3 times. I'm not seeing it. Can you give me a hint where to find it? Posted it to the designer. Not going to give up then though, because I really wanted this. So I Googled her name and found her website. She had a website as well. And it turns out that she does a embroidered block of the month. A couple of different things. They'll turn into quilts or large wall hangings or whatever. And this was one of those blocks of the month. And she was now selling them because that block of the month cycle was over. She was selling them as individual patterns, PDF patterns. So I was able to find it. I found it, I ordered it, I downloaded it, I printed it off in about 15 minutes. And I'm so happy with this. But there's more to that story. I went back to Etsy, and I was sitting there typing a message to her. Never mind, I went to your website and found it, and now I can't wait to do it. While I was typing that, she was typing something to me. Or just within minutes, because I saw them in the same visit, and it popped up and it said, LOL. She said, I was just writing you a message to tell you that I was going to gift you that. Oh, and I told her that I bought a couple of other, I know that's what I said. When I told her that I'd gone through her Etsy site, I told her, now I've already bought a couple of other patterns on Etsy, but I really do want that one. Can you give me a hint where it was? So she wrote me back and laughed and said, while you were doing that, I was writing you this message saying I was going to gift you that whale pattern. It was $5, which was a very sweet thought, and I really appreciate that. So now I'm a big Kathy Schmidt fan. The other things that I ordered, PDF, in my hands already. This one just took my breath away. I love birds, and this whole nest theme is becoming a thing for me. So, yeah, so I ordered this one, and then while I was not even, I didn't bring the fabric. She has lines of fabric as well, and so I bought like a couple of pieces of fabric, and Lord knows where those are around here. If I'll drag them out, I'll get them and show them another time. But while I'm looking through all of this stuff that all these people have posted about their Kathy Schmidt's designs, I see this one. This is probably my favorite quote of poetry ever. It's by Emily Dickinson. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. There's a second verse to that poem, and I haven't memorized it, but look at this. Now, I recognized the technique as soon as I saw the picture. I've never done it, and I was not looking forward to doing all those letters. But there's a technique where you kind of lightly color things in with wax crayon, and then you iron it, and the wax kind of all melts, and so you get this watercolor effect. But man, I knew I could do that, but I was not looking forward. I don't like embroidering letters, and these were really little, and there were a lot of them. This I ordered as a pattern, not as a PDF. And guess what it came with? Do you already know? Because I'm new to her, but maybe you aren't. It's a piece of fabric. It's a block of fabric. So I don't have to do the coloring in. I don't have to do the letters. What I do are the dark embroidery that sets it all off in here. Yeah, you don't even have to do, you just, everywhere that there's black embroidery on there, that's hand embroidered. And the rest of it is printed onto the fabric. I'm so excited about that. I can't wait to get to it. It's gonna be so much fun. So that was haul. And then, of course, I got my monthly from Bestitch Me, from Brandy at Bestitch Me. There's a theme here, folks. Something's going on. This month for my category, so I get the 16 count Aida every month, and not the opalescent. I just want the traditional. It's called Shoreline. Let's see. I don't have any of my stuff to show you here, so I'll just put it like this. Where I go out into the Santa Barbara Channel in Southern California, we don't see this color, this aqua. If it's a beautiful, clear, sunny day, the ocean will be a dark blue. But if you go up the coast, up the one, up by Highway 1 goes up, you'll eventually, well, it'll take you all the way into Washington, as far as they know, Washington State. But where I like to go, the part I like to drive is 75 miles, and you go through Big Sur and pop off into Pacific Grove in Monterey, Carmel. Along there are places where you can get out and look, and there will be patches of this aqua turquoise water here and there. It has to do with the depth of the ocean and the light hitting it and all. And all of the water is modeled like this. So I'm going to have to decide one of the pieces that I want to show, this might be a good choice for or not. I haven't decided. But that was my monthly from Bestitch Me. And all of these are going to go together. I'm never going to get organized around here. And the other haul that I got, let's see if I can tell you about this. I'm editing. Otherwise this will go on forever. I'm doing the humpbacks, okay? And, yeah. So this is the piece of paper that it's on. This is what we used to call in the old days a bap. Actually, we used to call Hades a bap. But now that Haid has become the colloquial term for anything that's full coverage that covers a great deal of fabric, I feel like I can call this a bap. This is going to take me a really long time, and it's going to end up being, you know, about this big, and you can't, that doesn't mean anything to you. Here's my head. I think it's going to be about this wide and about this deep at the rate it's going. This is Humpbacks. It's by just Couchman Creations by Karen Couchman. It's a 19, hold on, I know it's on here, 1995 chart from Australia. And there are so many options back here. I can hardly stand it. But I love the, these are seals, seal pups. But again, we saw orcas last weekend on the 14th of August. I saw orcas. They weren't leaping like this. They were playing with the boat, and I'm not going to tell you any more about that. We'll have to get that into the Grandma's Golden State list. I'll link it below when it's finished. Any rate, so that is a really huge chart, and I'm doing it on 16 Aida, which is pretty small. And for me anyway, with my, I have to wear readers and make sure I have the light just right and the whole thing. It's not a struggle. This is why I use 16 Aida instead of a linen. Linens are a real struggle for me because of the problems I have with my eyes. But I can do this. I have done some 18 and a 20, and a 16 is the most comfortable for me, so I choose that for everything. All right. The thing is, it is a big chart, and it is not as simplistic as it looks. The part that I just finished is just the gray right down here. This is a couple of shades of gray and white in here, and then there are multiple blues. Let me show you. Here are the colors for this. So it's not just a black and white or a blue and white whale. It is, you know, they've taken some time to design in a lot of shading on this. It's so gorgeous. Okay, and then other haul that I bought this morning. I almost tried to walk out of Costco with these. You know, they actually will catch you on your way out. But I had picked this up at the front door, and then I had walked over to do some stuff with a prescription, and it just bumped the fact that I had put this in my cart right out of my mind. So I made my way out thinking that I had my prescription and that's all I needed. I hadn't picked up anything else, and the guy at the door caught it, and I was so embarrassed, but I managed to go back and get it paid for. It's called, it's a Ziploc product called Contain the Clutter. And these are reusable accessory bags, and they're marketing it for makeup. In fact, that's what they were called on the pricing, makeup bags. There are 10 essential stuff bags and 5 skinny stuff bags in this kit. And for $6.99, and this is what they look like. I took it all out before I brought it because I didn't want to go through it there. Contain the clutter. And the stuff bags, the bigger ones, I will open it now. The bigger ones are about this big next to my head. And they're multiple designs. And then duplicates of those. And these are called the skinnies. And they're different. I love the ginkgo. It's so pretty. There are 5 of those. And they're just Ziploc bags with pretty pictures on them. Pictures are on both sides of the bag, which is maybe too bad for what I want to do. When I kit something though, and I have extra, this is the project bag I made, by the way, for the humpbacks. Is that not a gorgeous piece of fabric? And then it had a stripe that went with it, so I put an extra pocket on the outside. Where's my boy here? There's my humpback. So I said, what would you ever do with this? So I just bought a ½ yard of each. But it made a great project bag. And what I have not put in here, I have a little bag, a little zipper bag somewhere. Good job. But like this, is it in here? No, it's not in here, because I just showed it to you. This is how I put my floss that I'm going to use. It will only hold one skein of floss at a time. The extra skein I put in a little zipper bag somewhere. Sometimes it's a little Ziploc, but usually I'm addicted to these little bags, and I'm always picking them up somewhere at the dollar store, Michael's or whatever. And what I thought was I could free those up for other things. Let me back up. What I like to do is use them as a notions bag, these little zipper bags I get, and put a pair of scissors and a something to hold an extra needle or an extra package of needles, or just whatever I'm going to need as I work on this stuff. And I thought I could put the extra floss into these rather than just kind of loose in there with my scissors. I'm always afraid the scissors are going to get a hold of the floss somehow, and I will end up with a mess. So I went ahead and picked these up. It wasn't a huge investment, $6.99 for 15 bags. And they're pretty. Who doesn't like something pretty? They fit in this plastic thing that you can reseal if you want to store them in this. I'm not going to try to do it right now. Otherwise, I did buy some, I guess I bought this in a way. The whale watch I went to had a door prize drawing, and I won the waterproof crab case. Is that perfect? I got to choose whatever I wanted from the table, but first of all, I'm a Cancerian. Cancer is my astrological sign. I'm actually on the cusp with Gemini. I call it the most schizophrenic of the astrological signs because Cancer wants to stay at home and Gemini wants to go party all the time. But anyway, isn't he cute? He or she. And this is going to house that Take Me to the Sea embroidery. I use an oval hoop when I do regular embroidery, and it'll just fit in there, and everything's going to just fit in there perfectly. So I won that. It was no big deal. Everybody won something. And then I went to Michael's yesterday, and I'm really excited about the anchor flosses that are on the spools. I love anchor floss. I love the saturation of the color on an anchor floss as opposed to the same color in a DMC floss. I was watching Pam, Stitching in the World of Good Enough, and she actually took the time to take this apart. I don't even have to take this one apart to see what's happening here. This, I thought it was like sulky, where you would take it right off the spool and use it. And I guess if the project's big enough, you could do that. But this is just regular floss. It's 4 strands instead of 6. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's stranded floss. Got to my 4 gigabytes, turned off. It's stranded floss. And I hope you can see that. I hope will. At any rate, so that was a little disappointing. The thing that was the most disappointing though, and I had a lovely conversation. I mean, she was very receptive to hearing this, but apparently the way that the district, I'm going to say Anchor, tells these people who carry this floss to display this floss this way is actually on the bottom shelf. And so it gets up to about your waist. And then there are these multiple strips of this floss. At the top of the case, and I've seen this in both Joanne and Michael's now, it's a metal case. And at the top of that case is the DMC to Anchor conversion, so that you can read it at the top and then get your floss. There's a problem with that display, especially for people like me who are older. I'm not about to get down on the floor and cross my legs and sit there and look at all the tiny little numbers next to those flosses and look, and the way they run like this through there, I think, or I couldn't get the hang of it. And I had 5 projects that I wanted to kit as their original kitting with these. Rather than go buy the DMCs, I wanted to buy these anchor spools, and I could only last through 1 project. My back was giving out because I had to do it bent over at the waist and upside down trying to read these things. So I asked to see the manager and told her how excited I was that she was carrying the anchor, that they don't have enough. They didn't even have enough to halfway fill my kit that I was trying to fill. But that will change as people buy it. They'll expand, you know, the selection. You didn't used to be able to find every color of DMC either. And back in the old days when we were buying it for 10 for a dollar. But the fact that they didn't have all of it was not a concern to me. I know where I can go. You know, you can buy it by the hanks elsewhere, and I haven't been able to find this yet. I think these big boxes are the only places that have it right now. But I said, I said, do you know anything about cross stitch? And she says, well, some. And I said, well, the thing is, cross stitchers don't look at a display of embroidery floss and say, oh, this is pretty, I think I'll use that. And she kind of blinked. I went, no, you don't? You know, she didn't say that, but the expression of her face was, you don't? And I said, no, and I said, cross stitchers have a chart that they work off of, and they want to match the number in the chart to the number of the floss, which is not a problem because you have the numbers right next to the flosses. The problem is that it's down in the floor, and I can't stay bent over that long to look those things up. And so I just, you know, wanted to mention that. It looked to me like what was up above it could be seen under it and chosen by color, perhaps. I don't know what that was for. I said, but this is going to limit your sales. The fact that people, especially older people, are going to have to go through that is going to be an issue. It was already an issue for me. So I just wanted to let you know that. I said, I really hope that this, you know, really goes. I want it to be really successful because I do love these flosses. So I still bought what I could get for the 1 project. And she reassured me, and I'll pass this on to you. I was at Michael's and she said, this is what we're here for. She says, just when you come in, ask for some help, and they will sit on the floor and get your numbers of floss for you. And I'm looking at a list that had about 50 of these spools on there, and I went, okay, I'll do that. But I'm not unhappy with as far as the floss itself. It's no worse than the skeins, and again, the saturation of the color is just phenomenal. This is the one I chose for the little embroidery of the whale, and I might do the border around it with this green. But the way the woman did that I fell in love with, it's all 1 color, and I'm probably going to stick with that. And then I bought at Michael's, I bought this. Not for Halloween, but I think somewhere in the world I might be able to find a piece of cross stitch that will fit in there for Halloween. And if I can't, I might go back and get another one, I don't know. When it goes on sale, I paid the full $12.99 for this. But when they start selling the Halloween stuff right before the season, it'll go on sale 40 or 50% off. And if they still have one, I might pick up another one and spray paint it white. I wish I could find one that was vertical, because most of Priscilla Blaine and Chelsea, most of their stuff, Chelsea Carter, most of their stuff is vertical, not portrait, not landscape. Oh well. And then at, I want to say Marshall's, I bought this. It was $7.99. Trick or treat. At Easter time, you might remember, I did the Easter Peeps Parade. Brenda Gervais designed it for I'm not going to remember the name of the company. Not offhand. Anyway, it was the bunny toy kind of pulling the cart, and the little chicks were around it. The cart was full of strawberries. And I put it on one that said, it was white and had a pink and white gingham, and it said something like Easter wishes, bunny kisses, something like that here. And I took the binding off and put the parade piece on top, and it could display this way, or I could just lay it on a shelf. I don't want you to see that part. I actually don't want it upside down. Just lay it on the shelf, and you could see in my entry everything's on a shelf, and if you go over and look at it, you can see it this way. So this is another thing I'm sure in my vast collection of Halloween charts, I'm sure there's something that'll fit nicely on that. And for haul, I think well, I'll show you this just because I did it. If you watch Stitching with the Housewives, you'll recognize it all. Got this stuff, but it's probably not going to be used to decorate finished pieces. For example, the legs. How much were these anyway? I was curious about that. $4.99 each. Behind me at Halloween, I have a black, here's my head, a black squared off vase, glass vase, that I fill with black, those flat marble things for flower arranging. I fill it with that. And then I have 3 stems. When I used to visit Utah a lot, I had a second home in Eden, in the Ogden Valley in Utah. It was supposed to be a rental. It didn't work out, and when my husband died, I had to get rid of it. But I still have friends and family up there, so I can go visit. Haven't been there for a while, thank you, COVID. It's where Shepherd's Bush is, which is my local needlework shop, even though it's 800 miles away. At any rate, they had a mall in Riverdale, I believe, and called the Quilted Bear. And I used to love to go visit that mall over the years. I had the place for 15 years, and I would always go visit the Quilted Bear. And one year they were selling these stems, okay. They were long stems, and each stem has, I want to say, probably 16, 18 little bells, orange bells that are jack-o'-lanterns. And when you jiggle them, so excuse me, my brother is a percussionist and my younger son is a percussionist. And so they both, when they'd sung, those are really nice bells, they're a really good tone. So I have 3 stems of those that I put into that glass thing with the black discs and make this arrangement of these orange jack-o'-lantern bells, and it will sit right behind me at Halloween time. I want, at the bottom of it, so that you've got the vase is here, the bells start here. You put the bells, if the stems go all the way to the bottom for stability, then there's a gap here before the bells start, and I want these legs. Can you see their buckles? I want one of these. As soon as I saw them on the Stitching Housewives, I said, oh, I hope they still have some of those, because I want to put them in with those bells. So anyway, so that was haul 2. Is that all my haul? The only other thing that I bought at Michael's that I might use for stitchery stuff is they have several of these metal boxes. And again, if you watch the Stitching Housewives, they did them for Easter a couple of years, and some of the housewives' Easter pieces really just fit here. This year they're coming out with them for different holidays, and it's so funny. Do you think they even know that the reason people were buying these so fast was because of cross stitch? Because because the big box stores were saying for so long, oh, the cross stitch is a dying hobby, and they keep reducing their cross stitch. Have you noticed that? So I wonder if they ever made the connection. I think so at Michael's, because they're expanding their cross stitch now finally. But at any rate, this is neat. Old Salem Company, Mystic Mixed Herbs Incense. My problem with these, I bought 2 more a couple of weeks ago that are the fall colors, the oranges and the browns and all, that were for pumpkins. They had pumpkins here. And like I said, Priscilla will cover this up and put the design here, and I don't think I want to do that. These are really neat. This art on here is really awesome. So I think what I'm going to do, if I actually get cross stitch done, is just extend somehow the piece, maybe just with paper, not paper, with fabric, to cover the sides, so that the piece will show from the front, but the art will show from the sides. I haven't decided. I also spent full price on that because I didn't want them to run out. Wait for sale. And then I got some ribbon. I didn't get this at Michael's. Where did I get this? Who has the Celebrate It line? Is that Joanne? I don't know. It's a wired ribbon. I love pumpkins, and so I bought that for decor. All right, plans. I am hoping to continue to work on the humpbacks. And as I said, I take about 1 or 2 whale watches a month, and I'm going to try to reserve the day after it to devote to whatever stitchy hat time I have to do on the humpbacks. I also want to get started on these Kathy Schmidt's pieces, especially this one. And I haven't figured out when that's going to happen. I have this chart kitted up. It is called Where Hearts Rest. I want to get that going. Nest, see, nest, yeah. I guess it's crooked on her paper. My dream is for my entry eventually to have decor for every major holiday, major celebration that we do. And I bought the Waxing Moon Designs Valentine House Trio earlier this year. I'd love to get started on at least one of these for this year. I plan to have a bowl or something, a dough bowl or something, and start putting little Valentine's Day pillows in it. I've collected a lot of Valentine's Day heart things, but I want those first. And then I've been working on, and I really want to get this done before Thanksgiving, or for that season, and it's almost here. It's called An Autumn Wish. It is a Cherry Hill Stitchery design, and I have finished this much of it. I really believe that the pumpkin is probably the most intensive work on it, but I have to figure out how to keep some consistent work on this going if I want it finished for the entry for Thanksgiving. So those are plans, but the big plan, that big whoop-de-doo plan, I started to participate in the challenge that Carolyn Zook and Robin Hall started last year, the Magazine Monthly Challenge. And the year was so insane last year. I had so much going on that I dropped it. I couldn't keep it going. But at the same time, I was watching everybody else do it. And that consistent work, keeping on top of those things you set for yourself to do, resulted in a lot of progress for them and finishes. Carolyn's, I think, almost done, if not done, with a Hawk Run Hollow piece that she started at the beginning of the challenge. So I'm very impressed with that. So I'm gonna I'm joining the challenge again. I printed off my stuff. I've started to organize things, and that's going to be kind of guiding that. I thought about doing WIPGO. That may be a little too far reaching for me, and they do a couple of bingo games a year. They did Baringo in January last year, and to start us off now in September, they have AB Singo going. So I'm hoping that will help me just get into the routine. And I'm just going to have to look at the calendar and say, these nights, you know, chart it. These nights are going to be this, and get going on that. Because I have other things that I have to do. I want to do, but I have to get started. I have a 7-month-old baby who needs a Christmas stocking, and I'm not doing it in cross stitch. There is some cross stitch in it, but I've made 21 of these stockings, and every time someone new comes into the family, I make one, and it has to be ready by December 1st. So I have to get going on that. I have quilt work to do. I have project bags to make, and I wanted to make, I thought I brought it out, but I don't see it. There's another kind of a notions keeper that I want to make some of. So I have a lot to do with that. My battery light is going like this, and it's telling me you've been rambling on too long, Miller. So I'm going to close up and